Hey Hashem, please do something. Izzy, Wayne, good morning, good afternoon.
Good morning, everyone.
What are you hearing in the Israeli media? People are pro or against the hostage deal that they don't even know about yet.
Well, I don't think a deal is going to get through unless all the hostages are released. That'll be the sentiment, I would say. I think the government will fall apart if that happens. We'll see.
I know Trump is putting pressure on both sides, right?
He sure is, and it's working. And it's not helping the Canadian dollar either.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he wants to make Canada the 51st state. Which I
What?
think is
Tank the dollar,
which I
really?
think is a good idea, don't you?
Oh, that's not gonna happen. Well, 51st state would be closed to. 51st state tank, I've been there, I've done the tank, is too much involved.
Okay. All right, Chevra, enough politics. Now we get into the real world of Torah. So the question that we had started yesterday is, at what point can a person abort a shlichus, a proxy ship? We had just started. We just got our big toe in the water where we saw a quotation from the Gemara, right? So the shaila that we started yesterday is a person sent an envelope with cash to his friend's wedding because he's not going, and on the way he wants to tell his friend, I've decided I put too much cash in the envelope, take some of it out and only give him, a portion of it. So the question is, can you do that? Can you abort the proxy ship once that ship has sailed? So we saw yesterday a citation from the Gemara in Gittin. Adam shalav kesef amar lechavero. A person borrows money and he says to his friend, Holech mana leploni shani chayav lo. Take this $100 to Plony that I owe him the money. Amar Rav halova chayav ba'achrayusu ad sheyagia hamana leploni hamalva. So the debtor has not considered paid back the debt until the money actually reaches the hands of the creditor, which means that the debt has not, you can't say that just because the shaliach took the money, it's as if the debt has been paid. No, you don't say that, because the shaliach is not the appointed shaliach of the creditor. Okay, va'afilu hachi im acharei shenasam l'shaliach hischarit v'rotzes hakesef b'chazara eino chozer. But then the same Rabbi Rav says something that's counterintuitive. If you wish to abort the shaliach's mission and ask him for the money back, you cannot. Because the verbiage that you used was take this money, take this $100 to Plony. Because take in it, or holech in Hebrew, is implied that you're saying acquire it on behalf of my creditor. Acquire it on behalf of my creditor. Now, then the question would be, well, if you've already acquired it on behalf of the creditor, why do I have to make sure that the money, in other words, why is the debt still not paid until it gets into the hands of the creditor? And the answer is because the creditor knows nothing about this shaliach. And he could always say, I'm happy that the shaliach took possession of the money on my behalf, but only if he got the money to me. If for some reason he lost the money on the way or he was robbed or something, then it's not something that I'm happy with. And we have a principle of Zachin la'adam shelo b'fanav. We can create merit for a person in his absence without his knowledge, but you don't create liabilities for a person without his knowledge. And if a guy was to take money that belongs to me and then get robbed, that's not a lot. That's not
But if the sender does
an
it,
asset for me. That's a liability.
so if the sender sends a shliach, and the guy gave the lender's sender shliach the money, and it gets lost, then is that what? Because he sent
The lender,
sent the shliach to the Moro to get the money.
No, try the other way around. What about?
Yeah.
The person who gave the money, who was owed the money, sent the shliach to pick up the money.
that's what Hal just asked.
Oh, sorry,
Oh, yeah.
that's what.
So I'm using the term creditor because
Some
it's,
Canadian,
No, is that what-
yeah. He was speaking Canadian, yeah. So, if the creditor sends the shaliach, so then it's assumed that as soon as the shaliach takes hold of that money, it's now in the creditor's possession completely because the creditor has explicitly told the shaliach, you're taking the money on my behalf. Once then the debtor releases the money to that shaliach, he's totally off the hook, no matter what happens on the way back. But
It's an extension of.
right, but in this case, the shaliach has been appointed by the debtor, by the giver, the person paying the debt. Shmuel Cholek, but so that's Rav's opinion. That Rav's opinion is that you cannot abort the shlichus because as soon as you said take it, it's as if you said acquire it on his behalf. Ushmuel cholek v'sover kiven shehakesef adayin ba'achriyusu shel halove hu yachol lachzer bo. Shmuel says no, since the debtor is not off the hook until it gets into the hands of the creditor himself. The debtor always has the option of aborting the mission en route because he's in control of the money, because he's responsible for the money. V'nifseka ha'halacha bazeh kedas Rav kiven sheyesh braysa mefuresha shemisayad lo. However, we don't paskin like Shmuel. We paskin like Rav, the first opinion, which is that once you've given the money to the shaliach and used that language of take, which implies acquire it on the creditor's behalf, you cannot abort the mission. And therefore, the shaliach cannot give the money back to the debtor. And if the shaliach illegally gives the money back to the debtor, and then the creditor is left without his debt being paid, the shaliach will be liable because the creditor can say to him, you took the money on my behalf, you acquired it on my behalf, and you illegally took my money and gave it back to the debtor. That money was mine. You stole from me. So the shaliach could be on the hook for that money. Aval im haloive iyem al hashaliach v'hu pachad mimenu v'hechzelo pater. The one exception is if the debtor intimidated the shaliach. In other words, the debtor gave the shaliach the money, said, take this, acquire it on behalf of the creditor. And then he said, wait. 5 minutes later, he stops him as he's about to get into his car and he says, wait, I realize I need that money. Give it back to me. And the shaliach says, I'm not allowed to give you back the money. He says, what did you say? I just gave you that money 5 minutes ago. He says, I'm not allowed to give it back to you. You told me to acquire it on behalf of the creditor. It's now his. He says, listen, I don't want any of your yeshiva nonsense. If you don't give me this money, I'm going to smash your car windows and I'm going to whatever and smash your head in. So Potter, if then the shaliach, and by the way, it doesn't say that he threatens him with his life. He just says if he intimidates the shaliach, and based on the intimidation, the shaliach gives him back the money. The shaliach will be Potter. Kamosha haGemara misaperet al Rabbi Dustoi shaya shaliach shel Rabbi Achi b'Rabbi Yoshia lahavi lo klei kesef minahar da. The Gemara tells a story about Rabbi Dustoi. He was a shaliach of Rabbi Achi, and Rabbi Achi had told Rabbi Dustoi, "Bring me lahavi lo klei kesef minahar da. Bring me a silver utensil from the city of Naharda." So Rabbi Achi was the creditor. He was owed this silver object as payment for a debt. The people who owed the silver utensil gave Rabbi Dustoi the utensil. Then they said, listen, we realized we gave you something that we shouldn't have given up. We need it back. But they were very intimidating people. The people, they were like, I don't know, like they were a bunch of Russian tough guys. Yeah. And they said, we need this back. He says, but I'm not allowed to. I already acquired it. No, you don't understand. We need it back. And then so Hechzer lahem machmas ones. So he gives it back to them because he felt intimidated. V'nifsak lahalacha shehu patur. And the halacha is that in that case, Rabbi Dustoi was patur because he felt that he had no other choice. Amnam kol hadin hanal shayich dafka b'halva. So you may want to argue that in this case, where I've already sent the gift, the cash, to the chassan via my friend who's going to the wedding, and I told him take this money and give it to the chassan. So you might think that I'm not allowed to rescind or abort the shlichus. He says no. He says omnam kol hadin hanal shayich dafka b'halva, but that's only true with a loan. Shahaloy ve'sholeach l'malva, that the debtor is sending money via proxy to the malva, to the creditor. Uverega sha'amar holech lo havi ki'ilu amar zakelo ve'alken lo yachol lachzor bo. The moment he says take this to so and so, it's as if he said acquire it on behalf of so and so, and therefore he cannot retract or rescind. Aval im zeh haya matana lo omrim bazeh holech kezakeh. Then if it's a gift, we do not apply the principle that saying take this is as if I said acquire it on his behalf. And therefore the gifter is allowed to rescind the gift so long as it has not come into the hands of the giftee. So what's the difference between a gift and the repayment of a loan? Ki b'halva omrim holech kezakei kevin shahakesef magia lemalva huzachabo. The answer is because the money really rightfully should go to the creditor. The creditor is owed money, and therefore once money is released towards that repayment of that debt, it is as if the debt has already been paid and is in the property of the creditor. Masha einkein b'matana, but when it comes to a gift, I don't owe the person a gift. I'm not going to his wedding. I wanted to give him a gift. Kevin shahamekabel tzarich lizkot b'mamon shelo haya shelo me'olam. This money never belonged to the giftee. He has no rights per se to the gift. Tzarich lashon yoter mu'uleh meholech. Then you need a superior language in order for us to consider that the giftee has acquired the gift just by virtue of the fact that I told the guy to take it to the giftee. Ela imkein hu omer lo holech manazel liploni shuhu ani da'az lo yachol lachzarbo midin neder kamo kol nidrei tzedakah. The exception to that would be is if I tell someone take this money to this poor person or to that charity, there, because I've made a pledge to charity, I cannot rescind the gift. But if it's a non-charity, right? I think someone had raised the issue of tzedakah yesterday. If it's a non-charity shlichus, proxyship, so then I can always rescind the gift. Now, who is he quoting over here? This is all explained in the Shulchan Aruch and Siman Kuf Chaf Hey. So that's so the guy, according to this, if he just says take this envelope to the chassan, he's allowed to rescind the gift, according to what we've just learned. However, we're not done yet. We're going in and out. Then we're weaving in and out. What if he doesn't just say, take this envelope for the chassan, but he says, give this envelope to the chassan? Ha'im ze ki'ilu omar zakelo, u'chvar zacha bazeh ha'mekabel, v'lo yachol hanotein lachzor bo. So is that a superior language? And therefore it's as if the giftee has already acquired it. O shaloshon tein lo havi zakei, va'adain lo zacha bo ha'mekabel ad she'agid beferush tizge bazeh liploni. Or maybe no, you need a more explicit language, such as, when I'm giving you this envelope, as soon as you get this envelope, you acquire it on behalf of the giftee. Do I have to be that explicit? Or if I said, give it to him, is that enough? Dedas Rabbeinu Tam, he, she'im omar tein lo, yachol lachzer bo kol zman shelo higia liyado. According to Rabbeinu Tam, when it comes to a gift, if you say just give it to him, that's not enough. And you can always abort the mission. You can always rescind the shlichus. Avol das harambam he she'imasolo hachefetz va'omar tein lo zacha bo hamekabel keben detain lo hareu ki'ilu omar zakelo. And the Rambam disagrees. The Rambam says if the gifter says take not only take this but give it to him, it's tantamount to saying acquire it on his behalf. Umaran b'shulchan aruch pasak. So how does the Mechaber paskin? He says, Yesh omrim shetein eno kizakei v'yachol lachzer b'kol zman shelo higia liyado. He says, some opine that if you say give it to him, that's not tantamount to acquire the shliach acquiring it on the giftee's behalf. Ele imkein amarlo zakelo va'az zachalo v'kana. And therefore you have to be more explicit and you have to say to the shliach, acquire it on the giftee's behalf. And only then is it an irrevocable delivery. The yesh omrim b'tein havi kizakei b'matana, and others say that when I say give it to him, it's as if I said acquire it on his behalf, and therefore it's irrevocable. Ulchlal gadol biyadenu yesh v'yesh halacha ki yesh basra, and we have a general rule when it comes to interpreting the psak of the Shulchan Aruch. If the Shulchan Aruch says Yesh Omrim A and Yesh Omrim B, we always go with Yesh Omrim B as the final psak halacha. The language of the Mechaber was chosen very precisely. The Mechaber knew exactly how to maneuver his language when he wanted to convey how we paskin, even though he would bring two opinions. So if he, for example, if he says the halacha is A, and some say the halacha is B, then we go with A. But if he says some say the halacha is A, and some say the halacha is B, we go with B. So therefore, the Mechaber is paskening like the Rambam, that if I say give it to him, give this to so-and-so, then it becomes an irrevocable gift. V'lochein, and therefore, B'nidon didan, im amarlo l'shaliach tein matana zu leploni, v'achar kach rotza lachzor bo. Therefore, in our case, if a person says, give it to him, just see where this is the last paragraph. If he says, give it to him, and then he wishes to retract, he wants to abort the mission, lo yuchal lachzor bo hanosein kamo shepasak shulchan aruch shalosh amtein nechshav kizakei. Then you cannot abort the shlichus. Even if you tell the guy, just take out a few bills and give him, let's say, a third of what I had given you, you can't abort that mission. You can't change the terms. Once you gave it to him and said, give this to the chassan, it's irrevocable. And the recipient has already, it's as if he already acquired it. If, however, you just said, take this or bring this to the chassan, oh, you're going to the wedding, would you mind bringing this with you? And you don't say explicitly, give it to him. So then, and here language is everything. Then here the gift is revocable. Okay, yachol lachzer bo. Ulam im hachasen hu ani b'chol mikra ein anosen yachol lachzer bo mishum neder, with one exception, if the chasen is poor. If the chasen halachically qualifies as a poor person, which then it's considered tzedakah, and once you've relinquished it, you cannot recall it. Okay. So let me just go ahead, Paul. What did you want to say?
No, I was just curious about with respect to this specific postic who always put some say, and it's always the second. Is that consistent?
That's the language of the Shulchan Aruch. Yeah.
It's only like do other
No, this is only when it vis-a-vis the Shulchan Aruch's language.
and
That we have a right to make that level of precise measurement,
Right.
language.
just because I mean, sometimes you'll hear people say this, however, it's this, then it's much more clear
Correct.
where they land. It's
Correct.
that some say, it leaves it like.
Right. So, right.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And basically, the way the commentaries pointed out is that the Mechaber, when he wrote the Shulchan Aruch, it's the Beis Yosef, when he wrote the Shulchan Aruch, he was very deliberate in his use of language. Throughout the 4 sections of Shulchan Aruch, he was consistent in the way that he used his language, which is a big thing to say,
I guess one could argue the last thing you say is what you really think. You bring in other things, and then the last thing you say is how you conclude.
Right. And I guess you also have to question if the purpose or the function of the Shulchan Aruch is to guide us on how to live our lives. Why is there that ambiguity? Why doesn't the Mechaber always just say,
Well, it's this.
it's this is the binding halacha,
I know when we read the What If books with Rabbi Zilberstein, the
yeah,
cases, they always, not always, but oftentimes they'll bring me an answer and you think, oh, I guess I've got it wrong. And then it ends with, but however, and then it gives the final.
right.
So that's much more clear, because the however then says.
I understand.
all the other
I understand.
stuff.
Right. So a lot of times, first of all, a lot of it gets lost in translation, but in a situation like this, where the Mechaber is written this text several centuries ago, all we have to go on is there are certain hermeneutic principles about how to understand his language.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now he says, in the footnote, the Makar Baruch says, V'hinei ayin b'shach. He says, but wait 1 second. If you take a look at the Shach commentary on that Siman in Kuf Chav Hey, he writes, Shegam hasovrim detain havi kizakei, ainu dafke kishehevi lo et hamatana miyad va'amar lo tein. Avalim amar tein va'od lo hevi lo et hamatana, lo amrinan b'chiyai gavna tein kizakei ayin sham. He says, the Shach puts a little wrinkle into this. He says, I'm going to give you some cash. I want you to give it to the giftee. But he doesn't give him the cash right away. He says, I'm going to bring it over. I'm going to bring you over. Oh, you're going to New York. You're going to that wedding. So I'm going to give you an envelope, and I'd like you to give it to Plony. So if you don't give him the money immediately upon saying that statement, so it's not legally binding, and the gift is still revocable so long as it has not gotten into the hands of the shaliach. Val pizeh yesh lomar. So he says, based on that, we have to say as follows: the hinei hadavar matzui meod shehaorchim notnim matana b'check. He says guests quite often don't give cash; they give checks. V'im kain im reuven shalach check im shimon hashaliach.
That's the translation.
Va'amar lo tein et zeh lechatanu chadama. He says, what if I give the shaliach a check? And I say, as I give him the check, give this to the chasam. Yesh lomar de bazelu kuli alma lo amrinan tein kizakei al pi masha kasav hashachanal ki sof sof ruven adayin mochzuk bekesef. You could make the logical argument that I haven't given him anything of value, because a check, I can always cancel the check. It's a promissory note. And therefore, the item is not of value, it's only of potential value. And it's as if I said, give him a gift, and then a day later, I give him the cash. Od efshar. So he says, so that's one possibility that needs to be reckoned with. And therefore, halachically, if I send a check with the shaliach, then even if I said, give this to him, it could still be revocable. Od efshar, degam beli divrei hashach, anal yesh lomer dekeven deruven adain muchzak bekaspo, yochol lomar kimli kedas rabbeinu tam detain lav kazake. But let's put aside the shach for a second, where the language of give is not done simultaneously with the actual giving of the object or of the cash. But why can't a person who's the gifter simply say, I paskin like Rabbeinu Tam, who says that even using the language give is insufficient to make it an irrevocable gift. The afal pi shemorin b'shulchan aruch pasak ki yesh omrim basu detein avi kizakei mikol makom b'dinei mamanis kaimelan de'ef shalomer kimli ki yesh omrim kama kamo shekasvu rov haposkim v'ayin od la'el ma shekasavnu bazeh. But even so, if there's two opinions that are brought by the Shulchan Aruch, even though we generally paskin like B and not like A person, when it comes to financial matters, can always say, I wish to paskin like A. And therefore, you even without the shach, you could say, if a person wishes to revoke the gift, he's still within his rights, because he could always say, I'm going to paskin like the other opinion. Uva'ofen shashalach kasef mezuman and mashliach v'omartein. So in a situation where I gave cash to the shaliach, and I said, give this to the chassan. Kevin she'ein muchzak kilafi das rabbeinu tam ru'uvein muter lo lachzer bo mehamatana ketein lo havi kezakei. Then we know, according to Rabbeinu Tam, the gifter can still rescind the gift. Aval lefi Rambam ruvein lo yachol lachzer bo ketein havi kezakei. There's some typos in this. But if, according to the Rambam, I cannot rescind the gift. I cannot abort his mission. And since there's a machlokus, who is considered to be the possessor right now of the cash, it could be that you have a right to say that, no, we have a doubt as to who is the possessor, and whenever you have a bona fide suffix who is the possessor, you split the money. And if therefore there would be, let's say, a conflict, let's say there's this tension. I give $500 to the shaliach, and while he's on the way, I say to the shaliach, stop, I only want to give the guy $100. Something happened. I need the $400 back. And the shaliach doesn't know what to do. So he calls the Rav and he tells the Rav the dilemma. The Rav says, well, according to one opinion, all 500 already belongs to the chassan. According to another opinion, the person sending the money has a right to take it back. So the $400 that's in question, they should split it. Give 300 to the chassan, bring 200 back to the guy who's the gifter. And it could be that the gifter would not have a right to say, well, I paskin like Rabbeinu Tam. Maybe he would only be entitled to taking half of the money that he wishes to recall. Okay, bottom line is, be careful in your language, because if you, let's say you give an envelope of cash, if you give a check, more reason for you to be able to stay in control and tell the shaliach while he's en route, tear up the check, I retract your shlichus. If you're sending cash or a gift that has actual cash value, so then if you think that might be a possibility that you might wish to abort his mission, be very careful and say, this is a gift for the chassan, but I may wish to rescind the gift. I have to think about it. I'm not sure if I want him to get the gift because I'm upset with him about something and I'm conflicted and I'm not sure what to do. So hold on to it, keep it in your car. And when you get there, we'll talk another time on the day of the wedding, and then we'll discuss this further. That's what you should do. Be as explicit as possible, because I guess the point of this exercise of going through this tshuva is to realize that sometimes when you relinquish property, what you say when you relinquish that property could change the whole halacha just by using one word over another word. So try to be as explicit as possible when you give someone an envelope or something to take. Let's say, if you know someone who's going to Israel and you say, do me a favor, give this to, or leave this at the desk, or whatever you're going to say. Just try and be as explicit as possible if you feel that there's any shadow of a doubt as to whether you want that person to acquire that item or not. Okay? Let's see, what's the next? Rav shekipel ma'atafa mivuyalet kedei sheyashiv tshuva ha'im chayav lahashiv. A rabbi receives a stamped envelope, so in order to send a response, does he have to respond? In other words, a guy sends a letter to the rabbi, Rebbe, I have a shaila, could you please respond? And the sender sends him a stamped envelope to send him back a written tshuva. Is the rabbi now on the hook?
He's supplying the invoice.
Yeah, okay. So we'll talk about this in Mirz Hashem tomorrow. This is becoming less and less of a practical issue. All right, let's see. All right, have a great day, everybody.
You sent an email, you've already